exciting to see you all here. Really appreciate the support. There's a few thank yous I'd like to start off by saying. First is to Mike, who's the choir director here, as probably most of you know. He has been a big influence on my life, especially with jazz choir, and helped me get out of my shell and be able to be confident on stage and when I'm talking in other social interactions. And then I'd also like to thank my mentor, Joe. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here right now, but he has also had a massive impact on my life. I started choir in 5th grade, and then I continued all the way up into sophomore year at Northwest Boy Choir. And he runs that whole program really well, to some of the most amazing standards I've ever experienced. He is now still conducting the Northwest Boy Choir as well as the Vocal Point and the Symphony Chorale. So quite high up there. And I really couldn't have done this without his support as well. And then finally, well, actually, I'd like to thank Tamara, my core teacher. Her support has been extremely beneficial on this project, and especially grading has been nice. Finally, I'd like to thank my parents, who were my main sponsors during this. My mom, I grew up in quite a musical family, which really got me kind of going into music. My mom was actually a music teacher for a while, and my dad also sang in a boy choir. So I started learning music theory before she was like even teaching me to write. So it was quite the experience, and so it's all led to this. So music is really what I'm passionate about in life, among many other things. But the one thing that brings me some of the most joy is being able to create music and share it with other people. So mainly, my main goal with this senior project was just to, despite the many outlets that we already have at the school, I think it's always a good idea to have as many as possible. And so I just wanted to create yet another outlet for musical expression. And so, without further ado, we're going to start with a rendition of Eleanor Rigby. And we're going to treat this kind of like almost an open rehearsal. So I kind of want you guys to pay attention to the rhythms that we're singing, the tone of our voices, and whether we're getting accurate notes. And I want you to tell us how we did afterwards, and then I'm going to ask them how they did. And we're going to have like a little session of questioning, then we'll move on to the next song. So, thank you guys. Everybody, you know? Cool. Ready? 1, 2, yeah. So as you can tell, it's quite a dissonant piece, and it was actually quite difficult to learn in the end. But do you guys have any criticisms or anything you noticed about it? Anything you liked? Any questions for these guys? Jack.
Well, I thought it was really good overall. The only criticism I could really offer is that like when you guys would hit one note, it didn't always come in on pitch, but like after like a couple seconds, it was right on. So yeah, it was good.
This is for Brian. What's it like being the like anchor note?
It's fun. I'm with Jonathan on a lot of them, but it's
I mean, Brian should get more credit though, because the baritone part moves around all the time, so only within like half the time. But he's solid throughout.
Okay, I've got a couple questions for you. So, so what do you think was the most challenging part of that piece? Abby?
Apparently the words.
That happens sometimes. Annie?
Yeah, definitely the key change part
Yeah.
and the amount of practice time we had.
On?
For Tyler and I, it was coming on the off-beats part.
Yeah, that's one of the things about the song. You have a lot of offbeat notes, and so it's kind of sometimes challenging to get all the rhythms perfect. And that was one of the things we were trying to work on. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think also part thing with this one, you guys probably heard this a little bit. There's a lot of clashing notes. Some of them are actually on purpose. Some of them are on purpose. Like there's parts where I was singing alto and I would sing a C natural, and then the tenors would be singing a B natural. So you had the clash there. So that was kind of that was a big thing because they had like a moving line in the like when we were doing like the thumb. They were going A, B flat, B, B flat, A, B flat, B. I was just straight on the C.
Everyone knows exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I totally
Everyone
got
takes
that.
music. Like most everyone.
I mean, for me, it's just like that key change was very hard, but I think the hardest part for me was that half the time I'd be with Brian and half the time I'd be on my own. And
Yeah.
the notes that I went always clash, but none of them were written to go with anybody else, so it's like hard to kind of find those notes because unless they're shown.
Yeah. Okay.
How much time did you have to practice?
We had about quite a reasonable amount of time, like a couple months, and we really kicked it up towards the last week. We were doing pretty much rehearsals every day.
Do you practice every song every day, or do you learn?
Yeah.
Actually, I think that one of the bigger challenges about practice time is that we expected the second song to be the next song we're doing to be harder than Eleanor Rigby, but I don't think that turned out how it was in the end. So I don't think we're.
Yeah.
You thought this was easy?
Well, like,
I just think Eleanor Rigby was a bit harder than we were expecting because we were expecting it to be easy because it was a Beatles song and like everyone knows it.
And to everyone's credit, like a lot of our earlier rehearsals, we never had everybody here. Like there'd be different
Oh, yeah.
parts, and so Eleanor Rigby originally was really easy when not everybody was here because the parts wouldn't clash, and now everybody's here. It's really hard. So our next song we thought was harder until the clashing came in.
So, good transition. We'll start our next song. This one's the more upbeat and fun version. So we're going to be doing For the Longest Time, which was originally sung by Billy Joel. And yeah.
Arranged by Edwin.
Yeah, part of my learning stretch was becoming familiar with a music composition software called MuseScore. It's kind of a free version of Finale, basically, and it's a lot more finicky because of its price. And so it was quite a challenge to get this up and running, but after a while, got it going, and it sounds, I think, pretty good. Yeah. So. Any things about that that you'd like to comment on or have any questions? Yeah.
Well, I just have a question for you. Why did you choose two songs focused so much on soloists? I'm just curious.
I thought that I thought it'd be a good chance for I like to solo because it gives me the chance to express myself in a musical way, and I thought, and a lot of a cappella songs are actually kind of geared towards soloists, and so what I want to do was have somebody be able to come out of their shell like I did in some of the jazz choir things, and be able to have that confidence to perform. And you two really stepped up, which was great. I know a lot of it's very difficult for people to come out of their shell and be able to perform in front of all you lovely people, but as intimidating as you may seem, I think it was a good choice in the end to have soloists. And yeah, David.
Yes, I have a question. What was your process for rehearsing?
So part of my learning stretch as well for this was learning piano, and it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. And I actually got taught by Angela Armbruster, which is actually Mike's wife. Great piano teacher. You should all check her out. But shameless plug. She helped me learn piano, and so whenever I was in rehearsals, I would be sitting at the piano, or when I wanted to really run things kind of quickly. Logan's kind of a better piano player than I am, or Abby and Brian, so I sometimes had them sit down and be able to play out parts a little quicker. But I actually focused on, when I started, I originally did just a full rehearsal, and I realized it's extremely inefficient in learning parts and having everybody know what to do, especially when they're just starting to learn the song. So what I did was I started individual rehearsals, which made it a lot easier for me to first of all flunk out parts as a fledgling piano player, and then in the end we would come back together to be able to perform the pieces at a much better rate. And then during each rehearsal, I just basically sit at the piano and help them plunk out parts, and and any trouble spots we'd go ahead and clear up.
Yeah, and also like in addition to that, he Edwin sent us like individual parts of our music, so he would like play out the baritone part and like send that to whoever's singing the baritone part. He did that for all the parts, so we were able to practice it both at home versus just like strictly limited to rehearsal if like one of us couldn't play piano or be able to plunk out the notes ourselves. So he gave us that option so that we could actually sing along with the recording that he gave us.
Cool. Thank you.
So I was just wondering, for all these singers, what ways do you guys use to make sure that you're in tune when you're singing with each other? Because I know that when it's like chords, it's really hard to get the intonation right. So are all of you perfect pitch, or do you just practice a lot, or?
I know for Logan and I, we have relative pitch, like we're almost perfect pitch, so we can adjust accordingly and add it to it. And we can just adjust accordingly to make sure that it matches. Like we can basically just like be ready.
I think one thing that we also really tried to work on was learning like the intervals between different parts. So just learning like the distance between two different notes. So if you can hear one part and like you're not sure about your note, you might be like, okay, so like this is a major chord, and so theory is on music theory. Yes, okay, so if it was like someone singing that one, it's like, okay, I'm singing this one, just like the distance. So yeah, so I think some of us like would do that as well.
Also, some of it goes back to the music theory that we did, kind of like Logan was talking about, but during at least some of my individual rehearsals with negatively, Austin Kid, came from orchestra, and so he didn't really know all the solfege and all the intervals like that in the way that we use them in choir, and so it was one of the things we focused on was just getting running through some scales and running up and down the solfege tendencies and getting solfege tendency drill to make sure that he understood the intervals and that I don't know, but at least I think it helped him in the performances.
Right. And just something else that helps get the group that sings a lot better is warming up together for the song. Just like you don't need to worry about specific notes, you can do things in unison and then sort of branch out from there. It helps a lot if you're starting on the ground floor together and then you can build up learning a piece from there. It makes it a lot easier. John?
And also during our kind of like individualized rehearsals, which by the way I think was really good about, because most of us are seniors, so we all had our senior project stuff that we had to worry about in addition to Edmund's. But he was pretty good about letting us know possible problems, spots, or getting stuff checked out so that when we were going to hit these spots where there's a lot of clashing chords, we would know that, be careful there. Don't listen to what other people are singing unless you know for sure that you can base yourself off that.
Yeah, so for me with pitch, I think out of this group, I have the worst pitch and tone. Like, just because I have like the least amount of experience like with music, I think out of this group. And so for me, like, to keep my self-esteem up, it's okay. Yeah.
We're supportive
so,
of you guys.
So I generally just like listen to recordings. Eddie made recordings for each specific art on like this weird music software. Like the voices in it are like really weird. They kind of creep me out, but like the words are right. So like I just kind of sing along with that.
Any more questions? Kevin?
I thought the backgrounds did a nice job at creating a solid foundation under the solo. So a lot of credit to On. I know that the solo had quite a bit of range, and you did a nice job at it.
I was wondering if you messed around with the way that people are lined up in the group for sound.
Not really. It was kind of
I just stood here.
it was kind of a thing where we kind of wanted to put, we knew which parts clash together, and so we kind of wanted to separate them to keep them from fighting. And we wanted the main bass straight down the middle because he's kind of the supporting part. And
Also, just my part doesn't really clash with anyone else's, so it's
Yeah.
easy for, I can stand next to anyone and it wouldn't like get in the way of singing. It's like if you put like a baritone and a alto next to each other when they have notes that just don't sound right together, then it makes it difficult for both of them.
anything else? Any questions? Comments? Cool. I have some more questions. So first off, did you guys enjoy this piece?
What if it was very nice?
Not at the beginning of the show. Yeah. Yeah, it was a difficult piece to learn. I ended up having to take out a few parts because there's just some parts that just didn't work with everybody. And
Oh, I just wanted to give huge props to Eddie because he, this was part of his learning stretch was arranging this, and he didn't have much experience with this, and he managed to create an awesome song.
And another question for you guys. Do you think that the song choice was appropriate for your guys' range and for your abilities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you also another one? Did you feel like rehearsals were run in an efficient manner?
I think it was hard because I forget who was saying this, I think Jonathan, because all of us are super busy, it was hard for us to prioritize sitting at home and learning like these songs, and then, because if we had done that, if we been congregated together already with like knowledge of like how the songs go and how our parts are, I think it would have been a lot more efficient and a lot easier, but I think I personally know I lacked in doing my part in that, so.
I think if we relied on in-person rehearsals exclusively, I don't think it would have worked at all, because we just wouldn't have been prepared to like mix up the parts. But I think between having group rehearsals in person and having individual rehearsals with you, and then you sending out tracks which helped us learn our individual parts at home, which were very helpful. I think between those three things, it made it a lot more attainable to learn the song.
Thanks, guys. I think we're gonna wrap up there. I hope you all enjoyed the performance. Big thank you to these guys right here for learning their parts and dealing with some of my failures. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate the support. Outside you'll find evaluation forms. Take up an audience evaluation form for you guys, and then Mike, you have an expert one to fill out, because you are amazing. Do it out there as well, so enjoy your